Hello, everyone. This is Lee Andrews from Akathame. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as you know, I can't see the screen, so here we go. There we go. I hope everyone's doing well today. Allergies have got my number today, that's for sure. I don't know about you. And it's been a really rough week. So know that I'm keeping everybody in my thoughts, and we're going to be working hard to help whoever we can, wherever we can, speak the truth and get through this together. So speaking of which, we have got with us today Liz Anthony, an incredible story of success throughout her marketing career, particularly in the high-tech arena. And Liz is going to talk to us about her career. She's going to talk to us about women in high-tech, and she's also going to talk to us about how marketing connects with customer service to create amazing experiences. So, Liz, first question, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First question we're going to hand out is the toughest one. What is your perspective about women in high tech, particularly more mature women? And before you respond, I just want to remind everybody, you can put your comments in LinkedIn or YouTube. I will get to them as quickly as we can. If we run out of time and there are more questions, I will forward them to Liz and she can respond directly. So now, Liz, how about those women in high tech?
Thanks for inviting me today, first of all, and really appreciate the audience joining the conversation. So high tech, I think it's very similar to other industries when you're further along in your career. I think that the opportunities are great, but I think that you have to build along the way how you're enabling yourself to take advantage of those opportunities. So I think one of the things that women have to be cognizant very early in their career is to build a pathway through networking, through keeping in touch with people, through going to different events that they can get engaged with. I think that's really important. And then, we've all heard about the importance of mentorship. And that's so critical. And there are so many levels of mentorship. Not everybody is your super mentor, but there are mentors along the way to help guide you. And so I think it's really figuring out that path of who are some of your colleagues that you can share with, some of your challenges, et cetera. And then also, how are some of the people who have been at a place where you want to get to going to enable you to understand that journey that brought them there. And everybody's got a different journey. When I started my career, I was in sales and marketing with IBM. And then I wanted to go to a startup in Boulder, Colorado that was really fast-paced and had a lot of dynamics going on, taking advantage of a new PC market. And then I knew that for a time period, I wanted to step out and start a family. And so that stepping out enabled me to kind of see what was the next step to step into. And I chose to start my own business. And so then as I consulted with different companies, it enabled me to really see what are some of the cool technologies out there. What are some of and I had started my career in technology, so that was a natural ask of mine, as I looked at where I wanted to go. And then I got it as in the consulting capacity, got a taste of all types of different organizations and paths. And so I went from a more of a technical to more of a marketing path. And as I got into marketing, one of the areas that I really liked was data. And I tell a lot of my marketing people now and people that I'm mentoring, the future of marketing is data. And so I really embraced that. And then I took opportunities to insert that data aspect into the various roles I had, as well as a very tight alignment with sales. Uh-huh. And so I've always been able to look at different parts of opportunities from the sales and marketing perspective, but from an older person or I should say more experienced person in the market, I think that the ageism isn't necessarily a woman. It's across gender. As you get older, depending on the culture of the organization, they can want to bring in younger people. I think the most important thing is to ensure that your skill set is keen. I mean, staying on top of the newest, you can't let yourself lapse, right? You have to know what's the new technology, what are the new tools, and whatever your industry is. But specifically in high tech, in the last 18 months, I've had to learn a lot about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And, I probably wouldn't have thought about that a few years ago. So it's a journey, but it has to be a lifelong journey of education and really continuing to reach out. I'm reaching out to people that I spoke, that I worked with 30 years ago. So, just keeping that, because now everybody's at different places, and people have stayed in the technical journey. Some have stayed in the marketing. Some have gotten out of technology altogether, and they're opening flower shops. No.
Isn't that funny to say that? One of our former VPs at Aquent, where I used to work, actually bought a flower shop in Harvard, or somewhere in that area. Yeah. That's weird. What is it about flowers? I wonder. So calming, so peaceful. Until you try to arrange them and you get stabbed by, everything on that flower. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for that. I think that what I heard loud and clear is keep your network close. And when we're talking about keeping your network close, you don't have to talk to them every year, right? Just every, what do you mean by how do you keep your network close?
I'm always reaching out to people. I'm also a connector. I mean, some people will call me and say, do you know who does this? I reach out and connect people. I also touch base with people periodically just to say, how are you? It's not necessarily that I'm asking for anything, or I'm also, good at putting calls together of friends that I know that used to work together, or maybe we meet in pre-COVID times, drinks in Washington, D.C., et cetera. So there's all types of ways. And then, just touching base. Oftentimes you see on LinkedIn, people change jobs and congratulating them. Sometimes it's just a quick note.
Yeah. No, I do the same thing. And it's because you also care, right? If somebody pops into your head, I immediately send a note and go, okay, you popped into my head. You doing all right? What's going on?
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right. I do want to ask about the mentorship. So I can imagine that you are asked to be a mentor to any number of people at any given time. How do you choose your mentee? How do you decide who you're going to mentor?
Well, I think from my perspective, I love mentoring people. And so I have mentored quite a few people. And that was true when I had my own business as well as in the corporate world. I think what's most important to me is what is that person trying to get out of the relationship? How can I help them? And who can I connect them with that could maybe even be an additional aspect of mentorship? So that's really what I'm looking for. And also I want them to kind of own the relationship. And, what are we talking about? How frequently are we meeting? And making sure that they're getting out of the relationship what they need.
Okay. That's okay. I'm putting all these notes down here. So if people miss this, we'll absolutely have this posted afterwards, because that was good advice. So a mentee shouldn't just go to you and say, or somebody seeking mentorship, hey, Liz, would you mentor me? Maybe a more thoughtful approach would be, I want to get from here to here, from point A to point B. And I think that you can help me get there. Is that something that you can work with me on?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's a good one. All right. Let's go to the meaty question. Not as if that first one wasn't meaty enough. Customer experience. How does your organization link marketing to customer experience? That's a pretty hefty question.
That's a big question. And it's a really good question. And so thank you, whoever sent that in. So I think there's a really tight link between the customer experience and marketing, especially in the environment we're in now. I sort of look at the customer experience right now in 3 phases. One phase is the response phase, right? In the last 90 days, 60 to 90 days, we've been trying to reach out to customers to say, hey, we're here to help you, right? We're in that very fast, rapid response time. And now that people are getting somewhat settled, if you will, then we're kind of starting to move into a phase of recovery. And what I mean by that is the conversation is educational, highly educational around, we've talked already about what can we do for you immediately to make sure and from a technology standpoint, you're up and running, that you have resources, you have capacity, et cetera. And then in the recovery, it's like, how do we start planning? So now we know what some of the needs are for the foreseeable future, or what they're starting to look like. Let's start that business continuity planning. Let's start looking at how are we going to fulfill some of your needs in a new environment. But where I really get excited about tying in tightly the customer experience is in the area of reinvention, because there's going to be so much change, and change that's going to enhance how organizations are doing business, whether it's industry or government, that people are not going to go back to a normal. It's going to be a new way of doing things. There'll be some things that they can keep, some things they'll need to change. And in that newness of reinventing the way they do things, there'll be so many new opportunities to look at things differently, that you have to engage in that conversation of listening and asking questions and really trying to digest from that listening what their pain is right now. Like, you might have thought you understood their pain, but the pain has changed and their priorities have changed. So for the next 12 to 18 to 24 months, the conversation has to change, and you have to be sensitive about and empathetic about how you work with your customers, I believe, to get from here to there to help them support their mission. So I really think that reinvention is really what's exciting, because it enables us to have a different conversation and maybe even help them to accelerate the things they've been wanting to do. And now it gives them an opportunity to really look at how to do them.
So give me an example of what you're hearing as of late that customers are saying that is changing. And how is technology helping them through that change? You can be specific about Vion's technology or any other technology, but what are you hearing?
So, I mean, just maybe a simple example would be in Vion's area. We're a service provider. We manage everything in infrastructure from storage to AI. And so we've been talking in the market, in the mostly government market, but across industry, about IT modernization. And we've been talking about that for the last 2 years, digital transformation. And so we've been working with organizations to do that. But in this time of now the workforce working remotely and in a very accelerated capacity, it might have been at 50%, now it's at 95%. When you have that kind of acceleration, that message around and the need for IT modernization and digital transformation is just so heightened. I mean, we've started a path, but organizations now need to accelerate what they've done. So example of this concretely is last week I was in a meeting with Suzette Kent of the federal CIO, and she gave an example of the SBA and how they had to stand up a new system with huge capacity in about 3 days, and they've processed like hundreds, thousands more times of applications than they ever do in a year. But they were already on a road to modernization. This accelerated it beyond belief. And what that told her and, the other agencies is we're on the right path, but we need to continue and we need to get that funding so that that IT modernization accelerates. And with that are going to become new engagement opportunities for not only my company, but other high-tech companies to say, how do we help you accelerate in a planned fashion so that you can onboard this, as well as you can onboard the technology and really support the mission of the organization.
So for you to be able to pull something like that off, or any other IT provider, you really have to understand what SBA does. You have to understand what your client does and how they interact with their clients, right?
Right.
So now you've got several levels, several touch points of customer experience.
Correct.
That you as a technology provider and a marketer are responsible for, right?
Correct. And so I think one of the things that comes out of this is the effectiveness of use cases. So, we have been engaged with the SBA and helping them stand up their capacity in about a 36-hour time frame. And so being able to do that and it wasn't just us, but there was a whole series of IT vendors that were having to help stand up a whole system there. But I think that what's really important is with the use cases, it gives not only that organization, an understanding of what was done with them, but also other organizations, what could be done for them and with them based on their, it gives them ideas of, oh, we have a similar need. Right. We could talk about that. And it just opens up the conversation. And it's very, it's not speeds and feeds. It's not because of a specific technology. It's also often a group of companies that are coming together, especially, as complexity of IT happens, it's never usually just one IT vendor that's bringing the solution. It's usually a combination of solution.
Which also heightens the concern about customer experience, right? So when you've got different companies supporting the same outcome, hopefully, right? You're all working towards the same outcome. Right. How are you measuring customer? So this is a big question. How do you measure customer service on the engagement, customer experience on the engagement, and how do you measure customer experience after the engagements? Once you launch, how do you know that your customers are really experiencing what you want them to experience?
I mean, every company has a different process for customer experience, but in our company, we have an engagement team that goes in for the installation. They get feedback on the installation. They meet regularly with the customer. Ongoing account management is always talking with the customer to find out, how have we done? What can we do better? And oftentimes, we've been in business 40 years and we have a really stellar reputation. Our CEO, Tom Frana, stands behind, every implementation. And oftentimes,
wow.
in an instance like this, he was fully committed to helping the SBA stand up in a matter of hours versus weeks, days, weeks, months. And so, with that kind of commitment, the customer often calls us back in to do more. And I think that speaks volumes for that. And then they often talk with other customers. So when you have customers sharing their how we were able to help them, I think that's great. But I think also that that it's really important to have ongoing conversations with customers. So, we have some third party companies in the metropolitan DC area that we use when we do roundtables, not only with the direct customer, but with system integrators, so that we can see, because oftentimes in these large implementations, you have system integrators who are really doing a lot of the project management, et cetera. And so we hear from them, what's top of mind from them? What are they thinking? How are they seeing the projects? What's some of the newer technology that they might be looking for? And so that helps guide, some of the product development and types of technologies that we look at from incubators, or disruptive technologies that we bring into the market, et cetera. And so it's that ongoing conversation and that full cycle of listening that's really important.
Interesting. So I think that this is a really good place to kind of pause and say, as a marketer in the high tech industry, you're not just trying to bring customers in, you're trying to bring the latest ideas and technological solutions into the organization. And you're trying to broadcast the exceptional service that your organization has to draw in more clients. But doesn't that also draw in more highly qualified people, more talent to your organization?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we do. Yeah, we actually have a really very cool subsidiary called Ascolta, and it's focused on AI. And we have probably 25, data scientists, AI type people, and they're working on some of the most advanced systems for Air Force and military. But they're some of the brightest people I've met, and so I think that we, at least the teams that I've been on, whether that's been at IBM, at Cisco, at NetApp, at Vion, I've always worked with really very forward-leaning companies that are always looking for that new technology. And so for the last 6 years that I've been at Vion, we've go out to Silicon Valley. We meet with some incubators so that we understand what are the new things. And then because of our position in the federal market, we're able to bring companies into market with us. They might only have commercial experience, so we're able to bring the federal side because of our knowledge. And part of it is because my team, I think, does a really strong go-to-market program where we can take that technology, integrate it into the needs of and the messaging that we're hearing from our markets, and provide that go-to-market strategy and execution. So, and now, going back to your question about, how do we improve our experience? Well, now we're moved into a virtual world, at least for the time being, foreseeable future. And so we're really assessing all the virtual platforms, the multitude out there that will give a good experience, because when you're doing a virtual event like this, what's the sound quality? What's the video quality? How easy is it for people to ask questions? And so that all affects the customer experience from the beginning of an outreach program to when you're doing planning sessions after an implementation where you're doing a quick touch base with a customer.
So when you're in that process of helping to define this, I promise this is the last heavy question. When you're in the process of defining that solution, and you have to facilitate conversations between you, your sub, and sub, when I say sub, for those who aren't familiar, it's a subcontractor to a prime contractor within the government, or other vendors within that. Are you guys doing that facilitation, and how has that been happening over the past, 3 months, 4 months? Because that's very different.
Yes, we do. I mean, we have integrated project teams. So that starts early on when the project is identified. When we identify a project, we put a team together of the correct technology. And because we're more of a system integrator, service provider, we're used to putting together teams like that. So the process they use for having the team meetings and the kickoffs all the way through implementation and then the ongoing support, I think it's, for us, is a little bit of a natural flow. But however, you can always, we're always looking at how to improve that. So that's why, we're looking at how do we reach out to our customers, knowing the kind of environment that they're in right now in terms of, family time, et cetera. How do we reach out to the teams? Like we were doing a team training the other day around a certain technology. And I don't know about everyone on this line, but some of the webinars are getting really training are really dry. And so I said, well, let's do pizza at lunch and let's order pizza for the family, because at least, it was fun. And so everybody could say, order from their favorite pizza place. And, that's just a really small example of just trying to make it fun and be appreciative that people are, at home and trying to, meet with us and talk with us about different things.
Do you guys already have a back to work plan, or are you staying remote for a little longer?
Our office is in Virginia, and so employees do have the opportunity to go back if they want, but we're highly encouraging people to work remotely.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear.
And the one thing I'll say is that some of and we've also had to be very patient with some of our implementations, because a lot of our technology goes in the data center. And so the data centers are closed right now. And so, being respectful that we understand that people don't want to, at this point, go into the data centers or have it potentially contaminated. I think customers really appreciate that. They remember that you have that empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue, isn't it?
That's a different conversation.
Yeah, closed environments returning to work.
Yeah.
That's just a whole. Yeah, from the elevators from the front door to the elevators to the small IT spaces, the data centers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Can't even go there.
From getting back just one thing else with the customer experience, I think having an integrated approach, so that I'm a firm believer that people need to respond when they're ready to different aspects of your message. And so one of the things that I've always worked with are integrated approaches. So you're using, webinars, you're using podcasts, you're using LinkedIn, all the different tools that you have available, email marketing. And in some cases, regular mail is starting to come back, direct mail. So, which is a little scary, Back to the Future, but they've
got a good case right now, though, don't they?
Right. So I think that it's really important to have all those different tactics available to you in your marketing toolkit, so that you can really speak to people and they can react when they're ready.
Nice. Mm-hmm. All right. I promise you we've got 3 minutes left. Well, actually 2.5 minutes. What are the different skills needed to progress? And I cut this short. Progress from manager to director, from director to VP, SVP to CMO. From the marketing standpoint, what are the different skills that somebody would need to progress throughout that career?
So I think in each organization it's different. But in general, kind of the general buckets, I would put a label around. The first is, when you're first starting out, I think your presentation skills are really important. I think in a marketing capacity, I think really understanding data and understanding the various ways that data affect the organization is really important. I think being able to rotate through different parts of an organization is important. Like, I started out in field marketing, and then I went to channel marketing, and then I went to a global role, and then I came back to a mid-size company. So I think that having different experiences is a really good thing, because sometimes we get on a track and we feel like that we have to stay just in one track. And I would encourage people to expand their horizon and look at different aspects. And I know other colleagues of mine who are also senior leaders, they might have started as a system engineer, and then they went to sales, and then they went to marketing. And so there's not one path, but I would say your presentation skills, your interpersonal skills, I would say, depending on what type of management level, When you get to the director, you have to be able to manage people and have that people skill set. And you also have to be able to do a lot of analysis. So being able to clip down into the analytics side of the business is really important. And then I think at a senior level, it's really having that understanding of the organization overall, and then being able to understand the business. I think many people want to get to a senior level position, but they don't understand the financial aspects of the business and or the sales aspects that really drive some of the funding and some of the other aspects of marketing that affect leadership and building teams, et cetera.
Okay, that was a mouthful. So we are just over our 30 minutes now, but I want to wrap that up because that's really important. So you are saying that to get to the leadership role, you really need to understand everything that happens to support that role, is what I'm hearing, is that you need to understand how the company works. You need to understand how business works. So a level of business acumen, and that includes sales and technology and product development, and how all the pieces fit.
Right.
So in my mind, senior leaders understand the landscape. They understand not only the landscape of their organization, but they understand what it takes to make a company successful. And I also think that the best senior leaders, and I put you in that category, you put all else above yourself. Your decisions have always been about the common good, not about what's good for Liz. That's my take.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And you're always looking at the organization, in terms of how to make that better for everyone. I think in general, I think that's how I approach it. And but you also have to build your skill set along the way, and it can't be just in one aspect of marketing, because right now, from a marketing standpoint, you really have to know various aspects of marketing to understand how to move the customer conversations and the partner relationships needed to build the business and build growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big lift. Glad you've got it. Not me. All right.
Thank you for inviting me, Lee.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for staying over time. Thank you for your time today, the prep time, all of it. It is such an honor, as always, to have you. Just any conversation with you at any time, especially this. And if everybody could hold on just for 2 seconds, I am going to end this broadcast. If you could hold on for 2 seconds, but the rest of y'all can go. So I'm going to end the broadcast now. Thank you all for joining. And please don't hesitate to connect with Liz. She's a very receptive and warm, as you can tell, senior leader with a lot to share and give. So take care, everyone.
Thank you.